Have you been outside lately? The leaves on the trees are changing like crazy and are revealing a beauty that only comes once a year. Green is giving way to pops of orange, purple, maroon, and gold. But why? Because it's fall. But what makes fall different than spring? There's two things mainly. One is a giant gaseous ball of fire millions of miles away. And the other one is 23.5 degrees. Seasons change because the Earth's axis is tilted 23.5 degrees off from center. So as it orbits around the sun, there are times when the northern hemisphere, which is us, is more directly receiving the sun's rays, right? And this is when we get spring and then summer. But then there's times on its orbit when the northern hemisphere is tilted away from the sun, and we're not receiving it directly, and the southern hemisphere is. So that's why when we can be experiencing winter, New Zealand, which is in the southern hemisphere, is experiencing summer. It's crazy, right? And as we are tilted towards the Earth's rays, right, these plants and everything is experiencing life and growth. But then when we're tilted away and we're experiencing fall and winter, plants are experiencing death and decay. So how did this come to be? How did it come to be that we're an ideal distance away from the sun so that we don't freeze and we don't burn up? And the earth is tilted in such a way that all parts of the earth receive the sun's heat, which allows plants to grow during every year, right, each season. Well, if you ask some scientists, they'll probably give you something like this. Billions and billions of years ago, there was a lot of rocks and a lot of debris and things floating around in the universe, and they just kind of ran into each other. And that's how the earth was created. And it just so happens that it was the exact distance away from the sun that it needed to be so we could produce life, right? So that life happened. To put it simply, chance. Chance is why things are the way they are. But when I look at God's world, I don't see chance. I see a God who not only created everyone and everything, but a God who's also intimately involved in everything that they do. Listen to what Paul says in Acts 17, verses 24 through 28. He says, "The God who made the world and everything in it is the Lord of heaven and earth, and does not live in temples built by hands. And he is not served by human hands, as if he needed anything, because he himself gives all men life and breath and everything else. From one man he made every nation of men, that they should inhabit the whole earth, and he determined the times set for them and the exact places where they should live. God did this so that men would seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him, though he is not far from each one of us. For in him we live and move and have our being." Isn't this amazing? In him we live and move and have our being. God isn't just a far away, distant God that doesn't care about you. Doesn't care about the seasons, doesn't care about the harvest that a lot of farmers are experiencing right now, doesn't care about their crops. He just set a clock, he wound it up, and I just let it went. He let it go. And as for the seasons, God is involved too. In Genesis 8:22, after God saves Noah and his family through the flood, he makes some promises. Okay, here's what he says. "As long as the earth endures, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night will never cease." It's literally because of God's grace that the seasons continue. He makes a time for warmth and life and a time for cold and death. But like Paul talked about, God cares so deeply about you that he won't leave you no matter what the season is. And that is something truly wonderful. Thanks for watching.